Hey there, Class 11 Psych students. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to embark on a seriously fascinating journey of self-discovery. We're going to explore the ultimate recipe for making a human being. From the exact moment of conception all the way through the wild complexities of growing up, we're going to uncover the biological, cognitive, and social forces that shaped exactly who you are today.
But hey, before we get into the heavy science, I want you to hear this beautiful quote by Rabindranath Tagore. He wrote, "I wish I could travel by the road that crosses the baby's mind and out beyond all bounds." You know, it's a perfect reminder that human development isn't just a boring checklist of biological milestones. It is an incredible, profound mystery. Today, we are essentially trying to decode the road that crosses the mind of every single person on Earth.
So, here is our game plan for today. First, what is human development? Then, nature, nurture, and you. Third, the context of growing up. Fourth, prenatal stage and infancy. Fifth, childhood, body and mind. And finally, the social world, gender roles. Let's just jump right in.
All right, Section 1, what is human development? Let's go over the rules of the game.
Okay, let's dive into this, because these 4 terms show up on exams all the time, and it is absolutely crucial you don't mix them up. Growth refers to just an increase in physical size. Getting taller, getting heavier, it's something you can easily measure. Development, on the other hand, well, that's the whole shebang. It's the broader pattern of progressive, predictable changes that happen from conception throughout your entire life. So growth is just one piece of the development puzzle. Then we have maturation, which is all about the changes dictated by your specific genetic blueprint. Think of it like a biological timetable that just naturally unfolds from within. And finally, evolution. This refers to species-specific changes that happen over millions of years, like the emergence of Homo sapiens. So to recap, growth is size, development is the lifelong process, maturation is your personal genetic timetable, and evolution is about the whole species.
Moving right along this Section 2, nature, nurture, and you. The ingredients.
Take a second to picture your classmates. Some are tall, some are on the shorter side, some are super talkative, others are really quiet. Why are we all so different? Well, the answer lies in the classic dance between heredity and environment. There are 2 key concepts you need to know here: genotype and phenotype. Your genotype is your actual genetic heritage. It's the raw, hidden blueprint you inherited from your parents. But you don't display every single trait hidden in your DNA. What we actually see is your phenotype. That's the way your genotype is expressed in observable characteristics like your eye color, your height, or even your personality. So think about this. If your class monitor was chosen for being academically bright and popular, was that because of their genotype or their environment? Actually, it's not an either-or thing. The truth is, it's a mix. Your genes set the boundaries, but your environment heavily influences the final outcome.
Okay, Section 3, the context of growing up. Let's look at where you were built.
You don't just grow up in a bubble. Bronfenbrenner pictured our environment like a giant puzzle of concentric layers. Right in the middle is your microsystem, your immediate world. We're talking your family, your school, your closest friends. Then comes the mesosystem, which is how those immediate contexts interact. For example, how your parents relate to your teachers. But here's where it gets really fascinating: the exosystem. These are social settings you aren't directly a part of, but they hit you anyway. Imagine a parent gets a super stressful transfer at work. That exosystem event trickles right down to affect the mood at home, which directly affects you. Stepping back further, we have the macrosystem, which is the broader culture you live in. And finally, the chronosystem, which covers the historical time period. You are literally being shaped by all of these layers, all at the same time.
Next up, Section 4, prenatal stage and infancy. The timeline begins.
The timeline officially kicks off at conception. The prenatal stage lasts for about 40 weeks, and during this time, that genetic blueprint is working overtime guiding your development. But it's also an incredibly sensitive construction zone. The developing fetus is highly vulnerable to what we call teratogens. These are environmental agents, things like drugs, radiation, or pollutants like lead, that can cause serious deviations in normal development. It's this critical window where the outside world can actually permanently alter the biological blueprint.
Now, once a baby is born, you might look at them and think they are entirely helpless. But no way! They actually come pre-programmed with these genetically carried survival mechanisms called reflexes. If you gently touch a newborn's cheek, they'll turn their head and open their mouth. That's the rooting reflex, and it's designed to help them find food. Hear a sudden loud noise? The baby will throw their arms out and arch their back. That's the Moro reflex. If you press a finger into their tiny palm, they will grab onto it surprisingly tight. That's the grasp reflex. And if you stroke the bottom of their foot, their toes fan out, the Babinski reflex. These act as essential adaptive survival mechanics before the baby's brain is mature enough to learn voluntary behaviors.
But infancy isn't just about physical reflexes. It is deeply, profoundly emotional. So a really crucial takeaway here is that attachment isn't just about food. There's this famous study by Harlow and Harlow where baby monkeys were given a choice. They could hang out with a harsh wire mother that actually provided milk, or a soft cloth mother that provided absolutely no food at all. Amazingly, the monkeys overwhelmingly preferred the cloth mother for contact and comfort. This ties in beautifully with Erik Erikson's theory, which argues that the first year of life is all about developing trust versus mistrust. Warmth, comfort, and responsive parenting are just as critical to a human baby as biological food. It's what builds their fundamental trust in the world around them.
Section 5. Childhood, Body and Mind. Time for growing up and thinking complex.
In early childhood, your physical development follows two major principles. They sound a bit intimidating, but I promise they're actually super simple. First is the cephalocaudal trend. This literally just means head to tail. It's exactly why babies have proportionately massive heads compared to their bodies, and why they figure out how to use their arms for crawling way before they master their legs. The second is the proximidistal trend, which means center to extremities. This explains why children gain control of their torso and shoulders long before they can skillfully use their tiny fingers. Basically, physical development pushes outward from the center of the body.
And this brilliantly illustrates the cognitive side of growing up. Jean Piaget's stages of cognitive development. Piaget stressed a game-changing idea. Kids don't just have less information than adults do. Their brains actually operate in entirely different ways depending on what stage they're in. In the sensoriomotor stage, which is from birth to 2 years, infants explore the world purely through physical actions in their senses. In the preoperational stage, from 2 to 7, they start using mental symbols, but they can't quite handle complex logic yet. Then comes concrete operational, from 7 to 11, where logical reasoning about real physical objects kicks in. Finally, we hit the formal operational stage, from 11 to 15. This is where teenagers, like yourselves, start applying abstract, hypothetical thinking.
To really make Piaget's theory stick, let's look at the classic water-glass experiment. Imagine pouring equal amounts of water into two identical wide glasses. A kid knows they have the same amount, right? But if you pour one of those glasses into a tall, skinny glass right in front of them, a 5-year-old in the pre-operational stage will almost always say the tall glass has more water. Why? Because they only focus on height. But an 8-year-old, who is in the concrete operational stage, knows for sure it's the exact same amount of water. They've developed the cognitive ability to mentally reverse the action and focus on multiple characteristics at once. Their thinking has officially become flexible.
Finally, Section 6, the social world, gender roles. Let's talk about how society shapes us.
A really major part of socio-emotional development is understanding the difference between two specific terms, sex and gender. As outlined impartially right in your source material, sex refers to the biological dimension of being male or female. Gender, however, refers to the social dimension. It is the complex set of cultural expectations, roles, and behaviors that a society prescribes for males and females. And it happens fast. By the time children are just about 3 years old, they generally acquire their gender identity and start organizing their entire world around it.
So where do we pick all these gender roles up? Well, there are several powerful sources of what we call gender socialization. Parents are usually the earliest influence, often using rewards and punishments to teach what they consider to be gender-appropriate behavior, sometimes assigning totally different chores to boys and girls. Then, peers become massive enforcers of these roles on the playground. And of course, you have the media and cartoons. Research shows they often perpetuate stereotypes, like mostly showing men selling sports products and women in domestic roles. Eventually, this whole process becomes an internal motivation. Children actively begin to socialize themselves, genuinely wanting to conform to the cultural standards they see flying around them every day.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty massive question. After exploring the biological blueprint, the huge cognitive leaps, and the intense social conditioning of childhood, I want you to ask yourself, are your daily behaviors, your preferences, and your traits truly essential to who you are? Or are they creations of the media, your environment, and the cultural world you happen to live in? It's a powerful question to ponder as you continue your psychology journey. Thank you so much